Chapter 18. Deacon. It was dark when Deacon opened his eyes. The clock on the nightstand showed just after midnight, so why was he awake? He lay in bed for a moment, trying to figure out what had woken him, and then he heard it again, the soft sound of a whisper. It had to be Shonda, but who was she speaking with at this time of night? He squinted in the darkness, the room illuminated only by the faint silvery glow of moonlight and the tiny sliver of light creeping in through the cracked door. He tried to make out what she was saying, but her voice was too low, and the words indistinguishable. He pushed back the sheets and padded over to the door. Opening it wider, he peered out, and what he saw made his heart lurch in his chest. Shonda was standing in the hallway, her back to him, her body motionless, but it was the phone in her hand that struck fear in his chest. Who was she talking to? And why did her voice sound so robotic? Deacon crept towards her, wanting to make sure he did not startle her. He didn't know if she was sleepwalking or if something else was going on, but he knew you weren't supposed to scare a person if they were sleepwalking. Though at one time claims had been made that you should never wake them, more recent posts had simply recommended leading them back to bed, which was what he had planned to do until he heard her telling whoever was on the other end where they were. Why was she telling someone that information? The whole point of her and Dante being here was that no one would know where to find them, but that was out the window now. He had to know who she was talking to. If it was her family, that wouldn't be great, but they probably wouldn't be after her. But if it was someone else? The thought died in his mind. She had to be talking to family or a friend. The other option was just too horrible. He reached out and touched her arm gently, and she immediately stopped talking and opened her eyes. She seemed startled and looked around the room, trying to comprehend what was going on. "Deacon?" she said, her voice shaking. "What are you doing up?" Without answering, he took the phone from her hand and held it to his ear. "Who is this?" he demanded, but the only answer he got was silence. Frustrated, he ended the call and turned back to Shonda. "Who was that? Who did you call?" I didn't call anyone," she stammered. "I don't even know why I'm out of bed." "You were talking to someone, Shonda. You told them you were in Fire Beach. Who was it? Your family?" Shonda shook her head, her eyes wide and fearful. "I don't have any family, Deacon. My parents died a few years ago." "A friend, then? Please tell me it was a friend." Deacon was frantically trying to pull up Shonda's call log on her phone, but his shaking fingers were making it difficult. "I don't remember calling anyone," she said. "I don't even remember getting out of bed. Can we check my phone?" "I'm trying." He managed to click the right button, and the number appeared on the screen. Hurrying back to his bedroom, he dialed Eric, hoping he would either be awake or not mind a late-night phone call. "Deacon, what's up?" Eric's voice was groggy, but he didn't sound angry. "I need you to find out who is registered to this number." Deacon rattled it off. "Okay, but couldn't this have waited until morning?" "No, because I just found Shonda talking to whoever this is and telling them where we are. She doesn't even remember making the phone call. I have a bad feeling that the therapist she was seeing used some form of hypnosis to put a suggestion in her head. It's the only thing that makes sense." Eric let out a low whistle, and suddenly he sounded wide awake. "Okay, you're right. That can't wait. I'll get someone on it and let you know right away. Are you guys safe where you are?" Deacon shook his head. "I have no idea, but tomorrow I'll check in with my friends on the force here and see what I can do about getting some police protection." "Good idea. They probably won't be able to do much unless something happens, but it never hurts to have people aware, especially if you trust them. Until then, keep your eyes open, and I'll contact you as soon as I have information on this number." "Thanks, Eric." Deacon hung up with Eric and stared down at the phone for a minute. He wanted to call Jordan, but it could probably wait until morning. Eric was right that Jordan wouldn't be able to do anything tonight anyway. With a sigh, Deacon stepped back into the hall, where Shonda was still waiting, twisting her hands together. "Were you able to find out anything?"
"Eric is looking into it, but he won't know anything for a few hours at least. We should probably get some rest. Who knows what tomorrow will bring?"
Shonda shook her head. "I don't know if I can sleep. Who could I have called, Deacon?" He pulled her close and wrapped his arms around her.
"I don't know, but I promise you we'll figure it out."
She looked up at him and nodded. "I'm so glad you're in my life again."
"Me too,"
he said, and leaned down to kiss her. Every fiber in his body wanted to take her back to his bed so he could make sure she was safe. But he wouldn't do that again. This time they would do it right. He pulled back and stroked her face.
"Try to get some sleep. I'm going to finish the night in the living room just in case."
"Do you want company?" she asked. He did, but he didn't want to tempt fate. Nor did he want Dante to wake up and find them together. He doubted the boy would be upset, but that was not the way to find out.
"I want you to get good sleep. One of us should be alert enough to entertain Dante tomorrow."
"Okay, if you're sure." He nodded, kissed her again, and then watched her walk back to the spare bedroom. He loved having her here, but it was going to be harder than he thought to keep firm lines in the sand. There was definitely going to be a lot of prayer in his future. After grabbing a blanket and pillow from his bed, he curled up onto the couch and closed his eyes. Sleep wasn't going to come right away, but that just meant he could start his prayer time now. The light and the ringing of his cell phone woke him from sleep a few hours later. He blinked at the screen and tapped the button when he realized it was Eric's number.
"Did you find out anything?" "I did. The number she called was the therapist's number. We did a little digging into him, and it turns out he has quite a few burner cells linked to his name. We need to know a little more before we go pick him up, but I'm fairly certain we'll find something we can use. I don't know how he's linked to the fentanyl issue yet, but I have no doubt that he is. Can you confirm he's still in town? That he didn't head out to come here after getting off the phone with her last night?" "He's still here, but I have no idea if he might have sent someone else out there. My advice is to keep your eyes open. This isn't over yet."
Deacon sighed and ran a hand across the back of his neck. He wondered if this would ever really be over.
"Thanks, Eric. I appreciate it." "You bet. Talk soon."
Deacon ended the call and inhaled deeply, trying to wake himself up. He was already feeling the fatigue from the lack of sleep seeping into his bones. He rolled his tight shoulders, ignoring the clicks and crunches that met his ears. Though he took good care of himself, the years and the demands of his job had wreaked havoc on his body, and sleeping on an uncomfortable couch did little to help. But there was no time to focus on that now. The weak sunlight of an early autumn day had already begun to fill the room, and soon so would Shonda and Dante, and he wanted to have breakfast ready for them when they got up. He rose from the couch, his joints protesting as he stretched the rest of his muscular frame, and headed into the bathroom to get ready. The cold water he splashed on his face left him feeling a little more alive, and he quickly changed into a new outfit before heading back to the kitchen.